Our food system in the United States is one that is heavily dependent on large-scale farming. Ever since the Green Revolution of the 20th century, family farms have been consolidating, and more of our food is being grown by fewer and fewer farmers. Today, large-scale family farms account for about 3% of farms, but 46% of the value of production. For our project, we want to take a closer look at the differences between large and small-scale farms from an economic and environmental standpoint, see what large-scale farms are doing well, and finally look at what large-scale farms could do to improve their operations, whether it be through a reduced carbon footprint or through cost-saving techniques. Small farms contribute to the development and growth of the local economy. The money tends to circulate, create local jobs, and give more profit back to the farmer and community. Small farms have better adaptability capacities. They are not committed to thousands of acres of monoculture and can change with demand and offer biodiverse crops. Diversifying enterprise spreads farm income throughout the year, and crop diversification decreases overall farm risk from crop failure. The personal aspect to small farms is valuable because having relationships with the consumers and knowing what they want can be profitable. It is easier to supervise and control things at the small scale, including employees' skills, concerns, inefficient methods, and attention to detail. Selling directly to consumers decreases transportation and storage costs. Small-scale local farms tend to have higher production costs. Higher costs per unit in production, marketing, labor, and overhead costs make them unable to offer the same competitive pricing as seen in grocery stores by large conventional agribusiness. This also makes them less attractive to lower-income consumers. Expenses in machinery and labor-saving technology contribute to these costs. If these farms also incorporate environmentally sustainable or organic agricultural practice, costs can further increase. Small farms can be more negatively affected by crop failure and risk as they tend to have less assets. Larger, well-capitalized farms adopting high-technology production practices along with vertically integrated agricultural firms are able to capture the consumer market. They have lower per-unit costs of production and marketing costs, as well as the ability to provide consumers with convenience and consistency at a price below what is economically feasible for small-scale producers. Overall, large farms are more able to compete in conventional wholesale markets compared to small-scale farms. This leads to increased food production, created employment opportunities, and lengthened food availability via massive effective storage during the out-of-season periods. Larger farms may be more financially vulnerable than smaller farms because they derive a greater share of income from the farm and earn less income off-farm. It is possible that if farm income goes down, operators of large farms would be more likely to need to borrow more to meet their expenses. That is, they would not as readily cover their production losses with their off-farm income without borrowing. Other cons to large-scale farming include increased risk of animal cruelty, negatively impacts small business agriculture, contributes to health problems through byproduct pollutants, and can oftentimes be producing lower quality food to meet large demand. One example of a large-scale farm that implements environmentally good practices, there was a 4,500-acre farm in central Kansas run by Justin Knopf, along with his father and brother. It's utilizing no-till farm practices to restore the soils and conserve biodiversity. Plowing strips soil bare, exposing it to erosion by rain and wind. It collapses soil structure, closing off the water channels left by deep root and worms, and harms life in the soil. Additionally, they plant mixed cover crops and add buffers of flowers and milkweed at the edges of the fields to promote pollinators. It must be noted, however, that Knopf uses Roundup, the infamous chemical herbicide, to defeat stubborn weeds. Kansas State soil microbiologist Charles Rice argues that if herbicide used judiciously allows you to leave the soil intact, it is a net environmental positive. We have fields that have been in continuous no-till for 22 years, using herbicides with ever more microbial diversity in life. Additional examples of large-scale positive practices can be derived from our trip to Moses Lake earlier this quarter. The dairy farm there was extremely efficient, investing in high-quality feeds, reusing wastewater, and growing their own feed and fertilizing their crops with cow droppings, creating a sort of closed-loop system. Environmentally bad practices by large-scale farms. Farms within the American Corn Belt, also known as a region of the Midwestern United States once known for its fertility, have historically exploited its resources and as a result caused depletion of soil fertility through monocropping. Monoculture also degrades soil structure and leaves it more vulnerable to erosion, resulting in costs for soil replacement, cleanup, and lost farmland value. Additionally, This loss of biodiversity results in shortages of ecosystem services, such as pollination. More general trends of industrial farming have the following consequences. Increased water pollution through the use of fertilizer. This causes fertilizer runoff to contaminate downstream water supplies, which requires cleanup measures with an annual price tag of nearly $2 billion. Meat production farms, commonly known as confined animal feeding operations, often overuse antibiotics with their livestock, leading to accelerated development of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which has taken a toll in both lives and healthcare dollars. So what can large-scale farmers do to improve their yields and help the environment? For one thing, moving away from monoculture can actually help financially and environmentally. By planting buffers, farmers can avoid runoff, protecting rivers and streams from becoming overloaded with nutrients, as well as protect soil health and mitigate pest presence more naturally. Biodiverse crops would make farmers less dependent on a single crop, which could help spread out their risk and reduce the likelihood of financial setbacks due to market changes or disease outbreaks. Furthermore, this crop rotation would improve soil by introducing various nutrients to the soil that become diminished in monoculture. Better soils would lead to better yields, which would ultimately benefit the farmer financially.